Good morning, Carol Johnson.
Good morning, Bob Ponce. How
All
are you?
right. It is our 43rd episode of the Harlem Emergency Network COVID update.
All right.
Yeah, you think they'll put us in consideration for Emmy?
Well, now I've seen a lot stranger things happen.
We'll make our own award. We'll call it the Henny Awards,
I like that. Any.
and we'll be the only nomination, so we have to win. So
Let's
let's talk.
hope.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope. That's all we can do is hope, pray, and keep our sense of humor.
Absolutely.
So let's
Yeah.
talk about what's going on with COVID and vaccinations in New York. So they have now changed the accessibility so that individuals age 65 and older, certain workers, and people with certain underlying conditions are now eligible to get the vaccine.
I was really shocked that it turned around. We were in a meeting last week with the Department of Health. And, I thought it was really odd. This is the first time, or the week before last, this is the first time we heard, what the limitations was going to be. And so I had to remind them that from the beginning of this thing, it was always talked about people with underlying illnesses, people over 65 and underlying illnesses. So why is it now just over 75 and the underlying illnesses were no longer included? When
Hmm.
the majority of the people in poorer neighborhoods, they've been sick a long time. A lot of them
Hmm.
don't make it to 75. But a lot of these people walking around here today have underlying illnesses, 30, 40, 50 years old. And it appears like the healthiest ones are the 75-year-olds who were out there during the pandemic going door to door with shopping carts, with canes, putting bags on walkers, and taking food to people's homes. And it was the 30, 40, 50-year-olds that were on lockdown,
Hmm.
that were fearful of leaving their homes because of those illnesses. So I noticed that when the date came out, originally it was 75, just 75 and older. And in under 48 hours, it jumped. As a matter of fact, the age changed overnight
Hmm.
to 65 and over. And then I noticed yesterday that underlying illnesses was added there. So maybe somebody actually listened. Kudos if you did, you know.
Yeah, I think it also might be the fact that they have seen that they were not getting the vaccine out to as many people as they thought. A lot of the health workers are not getting the vaccine, and so they don't want to waste it because if they have all this vaccine coming in and they're not getting it out, they're not going to reach their objectives. I want to share this information also that people can find locations near them and make appointments online at vaccinfindernyc.gov, or they can call 1-877 VAX 4 NYC, VAX, the number 4 NYC, to make appointments. And there are, I looked at the map. There's certainly a number of locations in Harlem that are available, including Harlem Hospital. Let's see, Ryan Health, Frederick Douglass Community Center, Advantage Care Physicians, Harlem Medical Office. Let's see, Rite Aid stores, NYC Health and Hospitals, Lincoln, which is East 49th in the Bronx, Sydenham on West 118th Street, Institute for Family Health Center on 1824 Madison Avenue. So there's a lot of locations that are available. We also know that they are talking about opening up a 24-hour mass vaccination location at the La Marqueta in East Harlem and 115th Street. And I think you said, as far as you know, that that's not open yet.
No, that should be opening next week or the week behind. Um, there is one in the Bronx,
Mm-hmm.
and there's one in either Queens or Brooklyn. But if you call the number, you can find out, get that information. And these are
Mm-hmm.
24/7 vaccinations, 24/7. But you
Mm-hmm.
just have to make an appointment.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we still advise people, if you have allergies, that you should, consult your doctor before doing this. And of course, we also advise everybody that, um, regardless of taking the vaccine, you should still continue to do things to boost your immune system, because your immune system is still the thing that needs to kill the virus. So if you haven't boosted your immune system, you're not giving the vaccine as much of a chance. And with or without the vaccine, you need your immune system at its peak. We also advise everybody, you need to continue to practice the protocols, which is social distancing, washing your hands, using hand sanitizer. All those things are still necessary. And remember, the vaccine, it takes 2 shots, and so the first shot might give you some protection, but you're not going to get full protection. So it's not like getting a shot and then just go running around mask free and like everything is all good, because there's still been incidents of people who had the first shot and still contracted the virus because they didn't have full protection. So all of those things are things that you should be aware of.
And those are
Uh,
people, there's a lot of people that's I know Khalil was on the phone last night and he was talking about how his friend's daughter had COVID and she took the vaccine and now
mhm,
she got it again. And
mhm,
it's really kicking her behind now. The first
mhm,
one was mild, she said, but now it's really kicking her behind. And that's after that first injection. So I would
mhm,
even tell people to proceed with a little more caution. It's
mhm,
just a 2-week process before you get 2 to 3 week process, depending on which vaccine you get,
mhm,
that you take extra precaution. And I don't think it's a bad idea for people who do have health providers to take an allergy test. I know I
mhm,
have allergies. I just don't know what they're to,
mhm,
what I'm allergic to. But I know that I have allergies, and I'm sitting here now, and I'm sneezing and everything. My nose is running. I
mhm,
know that I do. I just never took the test.
mhm,
When we were growing up, that test was really crazy. You had to get like 40 injections in your stomach, something like
mhm,
that. So it was like, no, thank you. But
mhm,
it might not be a bad idea to see,
mhm,
check that out. I don't think you could
mhm,
be too cautious.
mhm. One of our listeners has reminded us that there's a survey that 55% of the NYFD or FDNY firefighters said that they would not get the virus, according to the Firefighters Association.
You mean the
So there's
vaccine?
been,
The
yeah, there's
vaccine.
some hesitancy in terms of
You
some
said
of,
they wouldn't get the virus.
right. Yeah. So so these are the dynamics that we're seeing. Um, as switching to looking at there's a lot of information more coming out about the long-term effects, which is another reason why we continue to suggest that everybody boost your immune system, because um they're finding so many different things from okay, here's one article I'm seeing that most hospitalized COVID patients are not fully recovered 6 months after discharge. And some of the common things people are seeing, 63% are still experiencing fatigue or muscle weakness. 26% of people are still having sleep difficulties. 23% of patients are having anxiety or depression. And so people are finding that most patients are continuing to live with at least some of the effects of the virus after leaving the hospital. And so these are things we're going to have to look at, while everybody is rushing and talking about, vaccines. There's still a health issue in terms of people who have had it and are still in a long term phase of recovery, and what are the aspects of that. And the other one is persistent lung problems, and people are still seeing some measure of lung problems, months after having COVID. And so these are things that we will probably, over time, there'll be a lot more research in that. They're also seeing long-term neurological manifestations in more than a third of the patients that were hospitalized in Italy. And they're showing 37.4% showing abnormalities on neurological exams 6 months later. So the more and more evidence is coming out that this 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 disease is a gift that keeps on giving. Yeah. And
Yeah, like we were saying early on,
mm-hmm,
this is you don't want to make that phone call
mm-hmm,
to go to the hospital. You don't want to get called that cab. You don't want to go to the hospital. You just don't want to go to the hospital. You don't even want to keep putting yourself in this situation.
mm-hmm,
And you know, I've been watching people this jubilation, like, oh, now we can go back to normal. There's the vaccine. No, 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 no. And all of the medical experts have said that we still have to take every precaution as we did
mm-hmm.
before. And it's just that
Absolutely.
simple. And in some ways, as we said, um, we need to take even more precautions. Take more precautions. It's not too much. You get the vaccine, you don't get the vaccine. You still have to take precautions. But don't think for a minute that you are now automatically, certifiably free to ever get the virus.
It's it's still amazing that people are not taking this thing seriously. Um, and we saw what happened in Congress this week. After the insurrection, that people ran up into the Capitol building unmasked, and then boom, right away you're seeing some of these Congress people testing positive for COVID.
Yeah,
It's
it's absolutely incredible where
mm-hmm,
we are. Is in and none of this had to happen. None of this had to happen. We were hoodwinked and bamboozled from the beginning 4 years ago. You
mm-hmm,
know, um, when this guy stole his way in after losing the electoral votes, or getting the electoral votes but losing the popular votes. So that
mm-hmm,
lets you know right there, like 3 million people more said no, but he
mm-hmm,
got in. And now the big baby, is whining and carrying on about the election was stolen. And for this to happen, we just have to say, buckle in. We are in for an even bumpier ride than we saw during the last 4 years,
mm-hmm,
because we have absolutely no way of knowing where this man's mental illness is going to take us.
mm-hmm,
And he's in a position to do a lot of things. So keep your eyes and your ears open. There's a lot of threats, a lot of chatter out there. So, we just got to pay strict attention. But we got to
mm-hmm,
know we are far, far, far from out of the woods. So
mm-hmm.
let's not think just because, congratulations again to President elect Joe Biden and Vice President elect Kamala Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not think we're out of the woods because we managed to get them in. It's going to be a long ride. And people are already saying, well, they better do this and they better do that. Do
Mm-hmm.
you really see the mess we're in? This is not something that can be changed overnight.
Mhm.
It's going to take some time to do that. And
Mhm.
so give them time, do what you have to do to make it easier,
Mhm.
and continue to protect yourselves and your families.
Mhm. I also want to share this information, and this is there is a group called the Frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, and these are a group of doctors who have um, they started early on, back in the spring, and tried to identify all of the treatments that were already available that would be effective against COVID. And so they've been sharing a lot of information, with doctors, but they don't get as much attention because, frankly, the news media, follows, what the pharmaceuticals want to do, which is the vaccine solution. And so I want to share this um, their web information for people who want to see what their protocols are. And it's interesting because a lot of their protocols echo the same things we've been talking about since March and April, which is use of vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, all these nutrients that can boost your immune system. The other thing that they've also and we've talked about it a couple of times, and we still don't hear much about it, is ivermectin, which is a treatment that they have found a lot of research saying that it's effective against COVID. But it's one of those research, it's one of these drugs that's genericized and it's not as profitable, but it's been effective in all three phases of the disease, which is prevention, what they call prophylaxis, the incubation phase, and in the later stage. They found it effective in all three. So I encourage people, if you want more information, you can go to this site,
Oh my God.
covid19criticalcare.com, and and read for yourself. And again, these are doctors. um, One of them testified before Congress back in the spring, but it's this information just doesn't seem to be being picked up by mass media. And it to me it's just alarming that you know even with the vaccine, we know that there is an issue getting the vaccine out to as many people as they say they are. And the fact that there are treatment protocols that are shown to be effective and are not being highlighted means that there's probably going to be unnecessarily illness and death, as a result of it, by not using every protocol that could be helpful.
I'm sorry.
You okay?
I'm sorry. This is just getting to be a bit much. I just lost another friend
Oh, I'm
to this,
so
Um,
uh
it's just when I say over 50, I mean over 50.
mhm,
And I'm just seeing that another one,
mhm,
um, musician, and again, another musician is just so weird.
mhm,
This time last year, we were over in Virginia, this party and doing a live show on live radio show and a live show
mhm,
television show and road trip, the first road trip that I'd really taken since I've been in a wheelchair.
mhm.
And it was such a comfortable and wonderful trip. And it's just give me a minute.
Yeah,
It's a
I
bit
mean,
much.
we're really feeling this second surge, in the last week I've had a couple of friends, you know, test positive and going through it, and you know, it's hard. It's hard. Um, but we're going to let Carol, take a break here and just talk about where we are in this thing. That we are really in the midst of it, and this second surge, just like the 1918 pandemic, is turning out to be much worse than the first one. And um, we got Wally Abdul Noor coming in. Hey, Wally. Good morning. How are you? Wally, can you hear us?
Uh, yes, I can
Wally
hear you.
Abdul
Can you hear
Noor.
me? Can you hear me?
Hey, Wally. Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Um, I've been going through some technology.
Wally, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, we're getting a little echo from you.
Okay, I know what I got to
Been
do.
going through some technology. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
How about now? Can you
Yeah, I
hear
think
me
that's
now?
yes, I hear you. Yeah, the echo's gone. Yeah,
Uh, Yeah, that's
yeah.
gone. Okay, great.
So you've been
Um,
listening.
so this is quite a situation that I think that we're in. There's a lot of information coming from different sources. I don't know what is it's like at a point now where you really don't know what to deal with, and
Mm-hmm.
and the point of the vitamins and the natural uh, uh, what would I say, health care uh, situations that seem to be, to me, this is my personal opinion, seem to
Mm-hmm.
me to be the safest way to go because information that is starting to come out, I it's very scary. It's
Mm-hmm.
very scary, and I you know I think that almost our class, our Tai Chi class, we have a saying: healthcare is self care,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really starting to feel that way. I mean, I don't have any real facts of this fears that I have, but they sure seem kind of likely. That's all I
Well,
got to
let's
say.
talk about the facts we know. So we know
Right.
this: whether you take the vaccine or not, you have to tune your immune system, and the reason why is that the vaccine doesn't kill the virus. Your immune system kills the virus. What the vaccine is supposed to do is help your body identify the virus and respond earlier. Um, it's important to understand these dynamics. The vaccine, it's like if the virus is a burglar breaking in your house, the vaccine is the old lady across the street who's going to call and say, watch your window and say, hey, it's coming in. But the virus is still coming into your body. It still requires your immune system to fight it. The other thing is that what kills people is also unfortunately your immune system, because what happens is when your body doesn't identify it early enough, what happens is that the virus becomes so prolific in your system that it's the viral debris, after your immune system has to react so violently that it creates this tremendous level of inflammation in your body, that they called it this cytokine storm, where your body sends all of the resources to kill it, and at the end of the day it creates such a chaos in your body that your other systems are affected, and that's when you start to have the pulmonary effects and the respiratory effects and the loss of oxygen and all those things. So the key is that it's still about your immune system at the end of the day. There's no getting out of this. The vaccine doesn't come in your body and then go kill the virus. The vaccine just gives your body a piece of some of the viral DNA, so that your body says, "Oh, this is the thing I need to look for and to fight it. So you still have to make sure your body is working in tip top condition. And we talked about vitamin D ad infinitum, but we'll continue to do so because there are so many studies that have shown that vitamin D deficiency is the number one thing that we've seen when it comes to people who have had this illness. And so, we just, continue to advise people that you got to boost your immune system. You got to take care of it. Do all these things. Um, um, and if you make your own personal choice, and we're not here to advise anybody on any of their own medical choices. That's not what we're here for. We're here to share information, and particularly share information that may or may not be getting to through you to the media. And we share a lot of information that is coming from doctors and medical studies, but we're not medical, we're not doctors, and we're not pretending to be. But what we do know is that each one of us has to take responsibility for our own health care. And we just need, what we do need is as much information as possible to understand the choices that are in front of us. Carol, I don't hear you. And Wally, I don't hear you, but you're on mute. No, I don't hear you. Wally, do you hear Carol?
Oh, okay. Do you hear me?
I hear you, yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. So
So Carol
now,
hears us,
Carol,
but we don't hear you. Still don't hear you.
How about now?
Yes,
perfect.
she's back.
I gotta keep the headsets in because these nuts are still on my roof drilling.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how about now? Still there?
Yeah, you sound good. Yeah, you're good. Yeah. So yeah, we were
Yeah.
just talking. Yeah, I think you might have heard most of what we were saying. We were just continuing to share people the idea that we need to continue to boost our immune system. Um, I'm gonna go on mute for a second because I need to grab this phone call for a second. So bear with me.
Yeah, I mean, these were things that we were taught a long time ago. Remember back when we used to have to take the cod liver oil and the castor oil and all kinds of things, flaxseed. Um, my mother used to sprinkle that in the cereal and different things like that. So, a lot of it is not foreign to us. That these are things that we
Milk
can
and
continue to do.
the milk of magnesia and all
Oh,
of
okay.
that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And basically,
Uh,
even though I was a sick kid, for a sick kid, I always remained relatively healthy.
yeah.
My illness had nothing to do with it when it
Hmm.
came to those different things. That, mom started us off in the morning, with that cod liver oil and different things like that, that people have been doing for years. A lot of people have lost track of those things. But there were different vitamin supplements, even when we had to take, what were they? Flintstone vitamins and stuff like that. People grew
Mhm.
up on vitamins,
Mhm.
so it's a
Right.
matter of just returning to that, getting
Right.
those vitamins and supplements into your system. And now
Mhm.
with all the veggie and fruit um, recipes for smoothies for people that don't like spinach and greens, I tell you, boy, when you mix that stuff in with some fruits, with some citrus fruits, some oranges, some pears, some peaches, and some kale, maybe a little honey if you want to sweeten it, just a little honey. You can come up with some masterpiece drinks. You might come to love them.
Mhm. I
Um,
want to, review some of these food sources for vitamin D, butter, cod liver oil, eggs, salmon, mackerel, all different types of fish. Meat has vitamin D, milk, sardines, mushrooms, I believe, also have vitamin D. Vitamin C, there's a number of different sources: broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, citrus fruits, collard greens. I had some collard greens this week, got my vitamin C. I had some Brussels sprouts, got my vitamin C. Grapefruit. So there are many sources for these things. Vitamin E is helpful, and that we have sources for that. Um, almonds and apricot oil and eggs, hazelnuts, leafy green vegetables, milk, nuts, peanut oil, different seeds, sunflower seeds. So there are many sources for these food sources that we can get these things to help naturally boost it, as well as you don't have to go to GNC or the pharmacy to get these supplements, but it helps if you don't have access to some of these foods, or you want to make sure that you can have a measurable amount that you can boost in. Melatonin is one of the things that we started talking about more
That's
recently
right.
because there was a study by the Cleveland Clinic, which is one of the foremost medical institutions in the world, and they found that they did a study. They have you know thousands of patients who go through there, so they went through and ran the data on all their patients, and they found that 30%, the people who took melatonin were 30% less likely to get COVID. But here's the more interesting part for our community is that for when they adjusted for African Americans were 52% less likely to get COVID if they took melatonin on a regular basis. Um, and melatonin is also a sleep aid, and they've also seen that getting a proper night's sleep also helps because when you're sleeping, that's when your body does its work in terms of healing and fighting against any kind of invaders. So melatonin, one of the things that we recommend you put in your protocols and your regimen.
I'd like to also change the subject a little bit. And the point was made that we really want to stay out of the hospitals as much as we can. And so I think that people need to start uh, stock up a little bit on your first aid supplies. Um, if you get cut or something like that, that you can take care of take care of the situation on a first aid level. If you have the supplies that you need, um, you need to we need to stock up on it. If you know anything about first aid, you need to stock up on what you know. If you don't know anything about it, you need to start reading a little about cuts and breathing situations, just so that you start to get yourself a little prepared. Because when the hospitals become overwhelmed, you got it's going to be self care, and so people not only with your foods, as foods are preparation, um, but the actual response would come in the first stage, and so people need to start thinking along those lines also.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion, and that's something that we had always talked about in the preparation of sheltering in place, the preparation of preparing a go bag, that you want to have a first aid kit available. You want to know where it is, which means that you need to make sure that you have flashlights and batteries if they're not LEDs, and backups if they are. Um, and one of the things was to just get a simple first aid book. You could get little books for $1. You go into these different chains and dollar stores, you can find these things. Everything gets back to the yo-yo effect. You're on your own. We have not experienced any really cold weather yet. 30 degrees is nothing. It's happening here and there. 40 degrees. We haven't seen the cold weather yet. But if that comes, we're going to be forced to be in the home more so. And so this is more of a time to like really reevaluate what you've done and during this pandemic, what you haven't done, what you need to step your game up on, and those things that you've done right, continue to do them. But don't let your guard down. We have not seen the hospitalizations the way we saw them in that first wave, but don't let that fool you. This thing is still on the rise. And it's going to be a long time before those, not only the vaccinations are hitting everyone if you plan to take it, but it's going to be a long time before everyone gets the second inoculation. And even then, we still have to continue to wear those masks, still have to continue to socially distance. We're nowhere out of the woods with this thing yet. And we want you on the journey with us. So we just have to, you know, continue to buckle in. We're in for the rides of our lives.
Mhm. That is true.
Yeah.
Um, I want to show this. This is the I mentioned before this frontline COVID-19 Critical Care Alliance, and I wanted to show in particular what their protocols are, because what's interesting is how close it is to the things that we've been talking about. So I want to show it because it shows these are doctors who have kind of validate the things that we've been saying. So this is their protocol. So it starts out, they talk about ivermectin, which is something that we've been bringing up that they've found to be very effective. But let's look at everything underneath ivermectin. You got vitamin D, 1,000 to 3,000 IU a day. You got vitamin C, 1,000 milligrams twice a day. You got quercetin, 250 milligrams a day. Now, quercetin is also a nutrient that can be found in things such as onions. So it's also found in natural food sources. You got zinc and you got melatonin. So, other than the ivermectin, which has to be prescribed, everything else can be found over the counter. And when they say prophylactis, that's their fancy word for prevention. So this is what they are recommending for early treatment. They're recommending that healthcare workers, use this protocol. And as you can see, they're still suggesting people wear masks and follow all the other protocols. Um, so this is interesting that we're seeing what we're seeing from these doctors is the same thing that we saw early on, that they're and their protocols were based on the studies that they can find, but also what's happening in the field, and they recognize that you know standard protocols is to have the random control tests on everything. But what they're also saying is, look, we're practicing physicians, and in the middle of a pandemic, what you also have to do is look at risk versus risk reward ratio. That all the things that they recommend have been proven as safe. Because the reason for three rounds of trials in pharmaceuticals is because a lot of these things just there are issues of safety. When they talk about ivermectin is already something that is shown to be safe. It's actually a drug that won the Nobel Prize for other uses. So the risk versus reward ratio of using these things now, when we're at the height of the pandemic, makes a lot of sense. So as I said, this is the information that people can look for themselves. They can go to this website and read in more detail, or share this information with their own healthcare provider. And as I said, we're not doctors, but we pay a lot of attention to what doctors are saying and doing. Um, and again, it still comes down to, we all have to, healthcare is self-care, as Wally said earlier. So we encourage everybody to learn more about this disease. We try to share new information we get every week on it. And we just want us to use all our resources to stay as healthy as possible, because we need it.
Do we ever? I mean,
Hmm.
these were things that, I remember early on how we talked about this, different agencies, responding agencies, and it was sort of poo pooed, you know, and everybody's talking about healthy eating. But what did that look like to a lot of people who were
Hmm.
used to not eating healthy?
Hmm.
And so we made the suggestion early on, load up on vitamins, get them in your system any way you can. But if you can change your way of eating, especially now that it's getting colder, people are not going to go out and get as much exercise. So you want to be really careful about the foods that you eat. So if ever there was a time to start getting those teas and everything else, herbal teas and everything else in use, it's now. And take advantage of it.
Hmm.
Try not to eat heavy. Continue to move around your apartment, even if it's just marching around your apartment, lifting your legs, putting a little bit of um, tension in those legs. Especially you seniors, move
Hmm.
around. I don't care how small your apartment is, just move around. you
Hmm.
know Continue to get that exercise. If you're sitting down, lift those legs, lift them up for a few seconds each leg. Just keep the body moving. You can't, when you're sedentary, other problems are going to start. Weight gain, you know a lot of gastrointestinal problems as a result of people eating out of anxiety, and you know just loading up on stuff. No, a lot of these things we're talking about that, really are good. If you've got a mixer, try making some smoothies. Just um, I love them. I had to pull my blender out. This pandemic brought my blender out the closet. I don't know when the last time I saw it, but it brought the blender out and got me mixing up some really delicious drinks. But just
Hmm.
get it in your system however you can
Hmm.
and make it enjoyable.
Yep. And stay away from the stuff that you know you should be staying away from, because the one thing that this pandemic showed is that there's a lot of things we already know. We already know uh, that the white sugar and the white flour, all the things that we know that are bad eating habits that lead to diabetes, that lead to heart disease, that lead to Alzheimer's. Those are all the underlying conditions that lead to being further at risk for COVID-19. So that being the case, the number one thing we need to know is that we have to treat each other. We have to treat our bodies with respect, and eat healthier. Eat. I'm not a vegetarian, but I can be vegetarian. I don't have to have meat at every meal. I don't eat the white starch and white sugar, and I'm trying to move more in that direction, paying more attention to the nutrients, paying more attention to what time I eat, paying more attention to the portions that I eat. Not perfect by any means, but paying attention. And so start wherever you are. It's a journey. You may not have to be able to do it all overnight, but you know what you're not supposed to be eating. Don't eat it. You know what you're not supposed to be drinking. Don't drink it. That you're supposed to be exercising. Do that. Um, it's more important now than ever that we do these things. Yeah. And it's
And
really
all,
interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, and also again, as we spoke before, to protect your mental health. These are really trying times. If ever there's a time that you need to get off of social media, if there's no reason for you to be there, just reading all of these different things that people are saying, and especially with the climate out over what happened in Washington. But now that the vaccine is going to be more readily available, you're going to see a lot of really, really crazy stuff. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. We don't advocate nor deter people from anything. We're not giving any opinions on this. Like we said, we're not doctors. We're just giving information. But if you're going to go somewhere, go. We're offering you some vital information. Check these sites out. Do the research yourself, but stay away from the FB, the Twitter, the Instagram doctors who are making up stuff and showing pictures of all kinds of strange maladies that's taking place behind the COVID, and different things that's happening to people with COVID, or how somebody has miraculously been cured. Stop it. Protect yourself mentally.
Hmm.
Sit back. Whatever you do, pray, meditate. Just sit back and be quiet. We don't have to always be on the phone and on social media and all of that stuff. Find some other things to do. Read the book you never finished reading. Listen to some music. But protect your mental health, because we're getting deeper and deeper in this thing, more deeper than people realize. So, like, if you haven't been doing it, this is the time to do it. Not only with the public health emergency, but politics, and we don't know what else is coming down the line. So this is the time to just sit back, regroup, and just keep yourself as physically, mentally, spiritually healthy and alert as you can.
Yeah, man, that's such good advice. And the one thing I would add to that is check in with other people. You know, you might have somebody else who's going through this even worse than you are. There's a lot of stress on people right now. There's economic stress, there's political stress, there's the fear of this medical stress, you know, and that it affects everyone differently. Some people are so consumed with what's going on in Washington that they're not paying attention to their health. Some people are so consumed with the COVID that they're not paying attention to the other things, and we have to pay attention to all of it. You know, we have said since the election that we're in a state of alert straight through the inauguration and beyond. But you've got to have your head on a swivel, because while you're paying attention to that, you still have to be paying attention to your health, and you still need to be paying attention to the people around you. So, check in with your friends and loved ones, check in with the elders, check in with the children, because everybody is feeling this thing a different kind of way. And, the only way we get through all this stuff is together.
And I just want to say really briefly, you said about the children, become creative. Most people have internet service. Become creative. Find some stuff to do with your children. And every bad thing and every negative thing, you can find some positive to accentuate it.
Hmm.
So don't look at this thing as it's just bad, 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 bad. This is the time when you can exercise differently, where you can go on media platforms such as this and Zoom and create your rooms and get a group of people together. Have dinner. Everybody have dinner. Create a menu. Create a menu. Okay, Saturday we gonna have taco day, and everybody get together their little tacos, and you get online, have some music playing in the back, whatever um, beverage you wish to have. Get creative about playing games with your kids. If anybody is lost during this pandemic, it's your children. And because they seem okay doesn't mean that they are okay. So I look at this as a time to engage, to like really, really look at things and become um, willing, at least willing to try things a different way, you know. And I want to end there, but I wanted to ask Wale, since we represent, so I'm in East Harlem, Bob's West. What's the climate like up there in the Bronx where you are? And have you heard anything about the I believe it's Bathgate Avenue where that um 24-hour hub is gonna open, vaccination hub?
Yes, last night they had a community board meeting and they gave out a lot of information on locations where uh, you can get tested, where the vaccine is going to be, uh, and just basic information to help the community. The community itself, it seems to be like people seem to be more into themselves. Um, People have their businesses, whether they're going to work or whatever they're doing, and they just seem to be functioning. And then you have those that just don't seem to think that it really matters. But the one thing I did see to have taken notice is that more people are wearing masks. Even the people that just hang out on the corner have
Mm,
masks on, and that is a difference that I do see at this point. Um, as time goes on, we'll see what's happening. Um, thank God the ambulances are not running the way they were um, last year.
oh,
Hopefully, they won't get to that state. Um, Other than that, things are, seem to be fairly normal at this point.
that's good to
But
hear.
what is normal, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, but it's good to hear that people are, because I've noticed that too.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that I saw that weren't wearing masks, or, you know, intermittently you see them with a mask, but most of the time it's under the chin. They've become a little more studious with that, and they're pretty much wearing them. And the funny thing is, I've seen people that weren't wearing masks in the beginning that were, like they'll pull them under their noses, but then when they come close to somebody, they'll snatch it over their nose. So I'm glad you brought that up, because sometimes you see things and you don't really, you know, process it. But yeah, I have been noticing a lot of that, and mostly our brothers. So I'm glad they're stepping up the game.
Mhm. Yep. So I think that's all we have for this week. We're here every Wednesday morning at 9:30, sharing the latest information we can to help you stay informed on this. So thank you for joining us and stay safe.